Just so you're not confused, this is actually the good weather. The bad weather starts on Thursday, which is tomorrow.
The highway heading east was lined with a huge number of dead frozen deer. I made it to the next town after a 34-mile day, working my way through a single package of iced oatmeal cookies. In Pagosa Springs, my host put me in touch with a local high school. I wound up giving a presentation on my trip to some wilderness survival and special ed students and promptly put myself on a strict wilderness survival diet. When I tried to leave town the next day, my host came after me in his pickup to rescue me from what he had decided was a suicidally foolhardy endeavor. He talked with the teacher of the wilderness survival course, and they'd agreed that I seemed unprepared and unmotivated. He also said I reminded him of his son. Back at the house, I got another email from Montreal. Hi, Owen. I thought I should tell you sooner rather than later. I met someone quite randomly 2 weeks ago, and I think it's going somewhere. It's a big surprise to me because this hasn't happened in a very long time. I've only been dating him a week, so I don't know where we'll end up, but at the moment we both feel strongly about each other, so the least I can do is pursue it with honesty. I'm okay if you still want to email, but know that right now my heart is elsewhere. By this point, my family were telling me to stop. The temperature fell to -20 Fahrenheit. The special ed teacher and his family had me over to their place, and I asked what they thought of my chances. Julie had lived in Alaska and Michigan, and she said that once the immediate cold front passed, I should be fine. She said she didn't have any particular emotional investment in me, so it was an unbiased evaluation. Brian gave me a pair of down mitts. I got my stuff in order and put on my boots. First the state line, then the Great Divide, then safety, at least for the night. I stayed with a family in Chama who were fans of Woody Guthrie. This Land Is Your Land was one of 2 songs Ben knew on guitar. He pointed out that the climactic verses in the original are about no trespassing signs and relief lines for the hungry. Those didn't come up in the version I learned in grade school. Police pulled me over for looking suspicious. 2 drunks on the side of the road waved their bottle of whiskey at me as they waited for a northbound ride.
How you doing?
Okay.
Are you walking it?
I am.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going across the country.
Wonderful. When'd you start?
When? Mid-August.
I stayed with a couple who lived off the grid in a subterranean solar home. They're resisting the leasing of the surrounding federal lands to oil and gas developers. Bill used to work in the industry himself. He said there used to be a stronger sense of community in the area, but as people get older, they move away to the cities to be closer to hospitals. I stayed with an artist in Abiquiu at the end of a 36-mile day. One driver circled around and pulled over 3 times to make sure I was all right. Even so, the first door I knocked on was the wrong house. My host said that when she arrived 25 years earlier, it was still commonplace to move farm goods around the valley by horse and wagon, and the next thing to hit was satellite television. I started seeing new things on the roadside: memorial crosses, diapers, miniature hard liquor bottles, hypodermic needles, trailer homes. Colombia. Snake. Colorado. Rio Grande. That night I stayed with the crime reporter for the local paper. He told me Espanola was the heroin capital of New Mexico, or possibly of the entire United States, with high death by overdose and burglary rates. There were a lot of tough-looking guys on the streets. It wasn't an eye-contact kind of town.
No shoulder, blind corners, Fast drivers, drunk drivers, German shepherds.
One of the networks I was keenest to learn about on this trip was the mail system, especially the National Federal Mail run by the U.S. Postal Service. Back in Wyoming, arranging an interview with the Postal Service representative or employee had turned out to be impossible thanks to an extremely strict public relations policy, but I kept hoping I'd be able to talk with an independent contractor. When I reached the gas station at Nambe Pueblo, I found the reservation had a postal arrangement of its own.
My name is Aaron Vigil. I'm the shift manager here at the Nambe Falls Travel Center. It's on the Nambe Pueblo reservation, owned by the Nambe tribe themselves. We're responsible for the operation of the satellite postal service that we have here. We intake all the mail for packages or postal itself, and the federal government comes and picks them up and sends them to the federal post office.
And how did you get involved doing this here?
The tribe actually asked for the permission to go ahead and do that as a courtesy. Being that tribes are federal, they're allowed to go ahead and do so on Indian reservations.
Is there anything that ever makes the mail through here difficult? Are there ever problems that come up with it?
There's a lot of problems that come with it because of the regulations and stuff for shipping makes a big difference. So a lot of these packages, when we suspect there's something in the inside, we actually have the customer open it. But a few instances where customers don't want to open up their packages, so we don't accept them.
I would have liked to have learned more, but he had a gas station to run, and the mail to take care of. Every network I was learning about has a heroic age in its history, usually the pioneer stage, but ideas of heroism change. Step back for a moment to 1956.
Route of the Pony Express.
It's all right here in my book.
Riders of the Pony Express. That's right, Sacramento was the western end of it, you know.
And St. Joe, Missouri was the eastern end. Here it is. Listen. The first telegraph line had been strung as far west as St. Joe, Missouri. From there on, the mail had to be carried by stagecoach. It was 2,000 miles from St. Joe to Sacramento. It took weeks and months, and then they didn't always get through. That's when the Pony Express was organized. People said it couldn't be done, but it was. 80 daring young riders, many in their teens, and 500 thoroughbred horses. They had stations along the way so a rider could change horses every 30 to 40 miles. These pony riders would start out from St. Joe with a pistol and a prayer book and the Sacramento mail. No matter what the difficulties, the dangers, or the obstacles, the riders went through. Boy, was that terrific.
You know, you can almost see those ponies.
I wish I would have been living then.
In 1956, heroism retrospectively included mailmen killing Indians. They don't specify exactly when. They also don't mention the Pony Express was a business failure, that its founder was arrested for defrauding the government, and that it only operated for 19 months before the telegraph and railroads made it obsolete. The teenagers who rode for it were still teenagers when it collapsed. Now jump to 1997. The internet and email have just gone global. Radiohead release OK Computer. If you were to imagine a lawless post-apocalyptic West from this vantage point, what would heroism look like? Say in 2013.
A man came through with mail, said he was a postman.
You have a gift, postman. You give out hope like it was candy in your pocket.
What the postman found.
You gotta stay out of sight.
I'm a postman. We're not gonna stop. Somebody might have to die.
Did I ever tell you how I got to be a postman?
Every day, everywhere, hundreds of mailmen are going their rounds. The deep, deep snow doesn't stop this mailman. Rain doesn't keep this mailman from bringing the mail on time. In a town on the desert, the heat doesn't make the mailman late. Sometimes a messenger brings a letter by special delivery at night. The mailman is friendly and helpful. Almost everybody likes him, for almost everybody likes to get mail.
That last clip was from 1947. It's not interested in change. In 1947, some part of heroism seems to be about being permanent, moving slow, persisting. I wound up standing outside my host's house for a while, pumping my arms to keep warm and feeling brittle. When she pulled in, she had 2 tall young men as escorts, both favoring the urban lumberjack look. I crumpled as soon as I got through the door and fell asleep in a chair while they went out on the town. When they came back, I fell asleep a second time by the Christmas tree with a dachshund named Snoopy to keep me company. It took a while for me to put my brain back together. The night before I left Santa Fe, I stayed up skimming through the entirety of Breaking Bad and barely slept at all.
I'm starting to wonder if I might not prefer, actually, barbed wire fences to no trespassing signs. At least with the fence, you can imagine, if it pleases you, that the fence is there to keep something else from straying out onto the road, rather than to keep you from getting off the road and finding a place to sleep. Whereas with the simple, unfenced no trespassing sign, you know there's no cow they're protecting.
It's about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just realized that this is probably the first time this entire trip that I've actually been in a place that's as quiet as the American West is often described as being. For once there's not a car going past. For once there's not an airplane going overhead. For once you can't hear the sounds of a distant city or town. So this is the quiet of the desert.
Somehow I find myself out here with food that is only acidic, very high in fiber, and mostly made of sugar. So I've got a large supply of food that I can't really risk eating because I've got nothing to balance it out with. And what'll happen is, if I eat it, first, in the space of about an hour, I'll get really jittery, and then my guts will give out on me. So I've kind of just got to march along not really eating until I can get to a store. Ideally a store that isn't a gas station, because I need some stuff that's high in protein and fat. So this is going to be a long day, and I'm hoping that when I reach Cedar Crest, there'll be something. Until then, it's just going to be a little wobbly. But at least it's pretty. Don't let the long, low buildings and the razor wire and the general sterility fool you. It's not actually a concentration camp, it's a high school. A talent development high school.
I stayed a few nights in Albuquerque. One of my hosts was a painter, and painting in her house was compulsory. For some reason, I thought of Saya Nova. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night, nor lack of preparation, nor lack of motivation, nor hunger, nor injury, nor dire warnings, nor police interference, nor dogs, nor hair's breadth escapes from traffic, nor heartbreak, nor tiredness are obstacles. Any more than air is an obstacle to flight, the eye to sight, or the earth to my footstep. Trouble is life.